What if a kiss wasn't just a kiss? What if it wasn't about love or passion or even desire, but about something far more dangerous? Control. In a world where affection is often romanticized, we rarely ask the harder question: what is intimacy truly capable of? A soft touch, a lingering moment, the press of lips against skin. We believe these things are expressions of love, but what if they are tools? Tools that can be used, not just to express feelings, but to implant them. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men forget more easily the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance." A brutal truth, one that exposes the hierarchy of human memory, what we truly value, and what we never let go of. Now ask yourself, what does a woman never forget? Is it the man who said the right words, gave the right gifts, or is it the one who made her feel something that rewired her mind forever? A kiss is not merely the meeting of flesh, it is the crossing of emotional thresholds. It is the point where logic fails and the subconscious opens. And if used with intention, it becomes a psychological weapon. You see, in every kiss, there is a choice: to follow emotion or to design it. Some men stumble into a kiss and hope for connection. Others craft it, like a sculptor molding clay. They don't kiss to impress, they kiss to imprint. Because obsession is never born in the rational mind. It is triggered in the deeper layers, where memory, trauma, and pleasure collide. And when a kiss is delivered at the right place, in the right moment, with strategic precision, it doesn't fade. It brands her. Not every place you kiss her is physical. Some are psychological landscapes, hidden terrain within the mind, the heart, the ego. And once you understand that, everything changes. So today we unravel a forbidden map, not just of lips and skin, but of strategy, impulse, and power. These are not random acts of affection. They are calculated acts of influence. 7 places, 7 moments, 7 emotional triggers that, when used correctly, can make her feel like she's falling in love, when in reality, she's falling under your spell. Are you ready? Because once you understand this, there's no unlearning it. Among all the places a man can kiss a woman, none is more ancient, more deeply encoded in our evolutionary memory than the neck. At first glance, it seems like nothing more than a sensual gesture, a tender moment of passion. But dig deeper, and you uncover something far more powerful: the primal blueprint of control. Biologically, the neck is one of the most vulnerable regions of the human body. It's where the pulse beats closest to the surface, where the life force is exposed. It is unprotected, soft, and sensitive, both physically and neurologically. A kiss here isn't just felt on the skin, it's felt in the nervous system. It signals something ancient, something that predates language, romance, and civilization itself. In the animal kingdom, predators don't strike at the chest, they go for the throat. This is not coincidence, it's instinct. And though we've clothed ourselves in culture, perfume, and pretense, those instincts still live within us, buried beneath layers of social programming, but never erased. When a man kisses a woman's neck, he triggers that primal vulnerability. She may smile, she may shiver, but what's happening is deeper than pleasure. It's submission, not in a demeaning way, but in a neurochemical way. Her brain begins to release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the same chemical mothers produce while nursing their newborns. The same hormone that makes people loyal, attached, addicted. This is not affection, this is programming. Machiavelli never wrote about kisses, but he understood power. He understood that to control someone, you must bypass their logic and speak directly to their survival instincts. You must tap into the emotional circuits that make them feel safe in your power. And the neck is a direct line to those circuits. It's where vulnerability meets desire, where danger meets trust, where control meets surrender. In courtship rituals across species, you'll see this dynamic played out. A lowering of the head, a tilt of the neck, an offering of vulnerability. It is the most intimate form of nonverbal submission. A kiss here, delivered with calm confidence, not desperation, signals something unmistakable. You're safe with me, but I could destroy you. That paradox creates obsession, because nothing is more addictive than danger dressed in safety. She won't be able to explain it. She won't be able to forget it, because it wasn't logic that you touched. It was code, primitive, ancient, untouched by time. And once activated, that code begins to whisper from within her subconscious. It tells her to trust, to obey, to crave, one kiss on the neck. And suddenly, you're not just a man. You're a force, a presence, a command. And she is no longer thinking. She's feeling. And that's when the real power begins. Not every kiss ignites desire. Some ignite dependence. A kiss on the forehead is subtle, quiet, innocent. It doesn't awaken lust. It sedates suspicion. It whispers reassurance. You're safe. And that is where its true power lies. The forehead kiss bypasses sexual expectation. It feels paternal, protective, almost sacred. It's the gesture of a guardian, not a lover. And yet, when delivered in the right moment, especially after intimacy, it does something far more manipulative than any erotic kiss ever could. It manufactures trust. It tells her that what just happened wasn't just pleasure, it was care. That you didn't use her, you're protecting her. That you're not just a man, you're something more, something irreplaceable. This is the moment when a woman begins to crave you, not for your body, but for the illusion of safety you provide. Manipulators have known this for centuries. Cult leaders kiss foreheads before sending followers into chaos. Narcissists kiss foreheads after emotionally shattering their partners. It is not love. It is control through contrast. They break you, then soothe you, hurt you, then heal you. It creates confusion. And in that confusion, obedience. Because the human mind, especially in moments of vulnerability, clings to the one who calms the storm, even if they are the storm. In modern relationships, this dynamic repeats endlessly. The woman stays, she forgives, she returns. Not because the man is good, but because he feels safe, even when he's not. And that illusion often begins with something as simple as a kiss on the forehead, soft, silent, disarming. But in reality, it's the beginning of possession. In a world addicted to speed, noise, and casual touch, kissing a woman's hand feels almost ancient. And that's exactly why it works. The hand kiss is not about lust. It's about ceremony, about reverence, and most importantly, about symbolism. Throughout history, hands have been kissed not for romance, but for power. Subjects kiss the rings of kings. Soldiers kiss their swords before battle. Disciples kiss the robes of saints. These were not gestures of affection, they were acts of allegiance. So when a man kisses a woman's hand, deliberately, slowly, without performance, it speaks to something buried in the subconscious, ritual. Suddenly, she's not just a woman, she's a figure of royalty. Machiavelli would have smiled at this, because he understood the paradox of power, to control her, crown her, make her feel like a queen, and she will crave the one who gave her the crown. This isn't flattery. This is anchoring. Dopaminergic association. You elevate her above other women, not with words, but with ritual. And once she feels elevated in your presence, she begins to chase that feeling. Not the kiss itself, but the emotional identity you've constructed for her. She becomes addicted not to you, but to who she believes she is when she's with you, honored, chosen, exalted, and every time your lips meet her hand, you reinforce that spell, quietly. Strategically. It's not submission, it's placement. She stands above, because you chose to kneel. And in that illusion of power, she becomes yours. There's something hauntingly intimate about the inner wrist. It's not loud, it's not showy. It's not a place most men even think to touch, let alone kiss. And that is what makes it unforgettable. The skin here is delicate, translucent. Veins run just beneath the surface, and the pulse echoes softly, like a secret rhythm only lovers should hear. But this isn't just about touch, it's about scent. The inner wrist is where perfume lives, where a woman's natural scent mingles with whatever notes she chooses to wear: jasmine, vanilla, musk. And scent is the only sense directly tied to memory and emotion through the brain's limbic system. Neuroscientists have shown that olfactory memories are not only the most emotionally charged, they're also the longest lasting. A single whiff can transport you years into the past, reignite feelings, revive attachments, even resurrect obsessions long thought dead. Now imagine this. You kiss her wrist, slowly, deliberately, inhaling as you do. In that moment, you are not just touching her, you are encoding yourself into her memory. And not just into any memory, into the kind that lingers, that resurfaces in the quiet, that replays when she smells that same perfume again. Or when another man touches her wrist and it doesn't feel the same. You've created a loop, a subconscious addiction. Because to her limbic brain, the part that doesn't speak in words but in sensations, you are now associated with deep desire, emotional safety, craving. This is not just biology, it's design. And culturally, the wrist has always carried a feminine mystique. Women lower their wrists when they're shy, offer them when they're vulnerable. It's a soft, exposed gesture, a silent signal of invitation. But few men know what to do with that invitation. They ignore it, or they rush past it. The man who kisses it, who breathes it in, signals something different. He is not chasing her body. He is reading her signals, listening to what most overlook. And this psychologically makes her feel seen, not just looked at, but understood. Machiavelli taught that power is rarely taken by force. It's offered when the one holding it feels safest in your hands. A kiss on the wrist is that offer. She will never say it out loud. But every time she catches the scent she wore that day, every time she glances at her own wrist in the mirror, a ghost of that moment returns. You've attached yourself to her chemically, emotionally, sensually, and now, without even realizing it, she's chasing something she can't name. Not attention, not love, but you as a feeling, you as a memory, you as an addiction. There's a reason men instinctively place their hand on a woman's lower back in public. It's not just romantic, it's territorial. The lower back is a zone of subtle dominance, a place where protective touch and silent possession converge. In crowded rooms or on dimly lit sidewalks, the hand settles there, firm, guiding, claiming. No words are spoken, but the message is clear. She's with me. Now imagine replacing that guiding hand with a kiss. Not during passion, but in moments when it feels unexpected, when her guard is down, when her mind is quiet. A kiss here tells her something primal. This space belongs to me. It's not aggressive, it's not lustful, it's strategic. The lower back is neurologically rich, close to the spine, and highly responsive to pressure and warmth. But its power doesn't lie in sensation. It lies in meaning. This is the space we shield, the space we offer to someone we trust to protect us. Machiavelli might say, people do not obsess over what is abundant. They obsess over what is rare and what feels shielded. When you kiss her lower back, you awaken that paradox, being claimed without being caged. You make her feel both possessed and protected. And that combination triggers emotional dependency, often without her conscious awareness. She doesn't just remember the kiss, she remembers how you made her feel in that moment. Safe, desired, chosen. And from that point on, she'll start scanning the world for that feeling again. But it won't be there, because you were the one who gave it to her, and you are now the only one who can give it again. It's one of the most delicate gestures a man can make, kissing a woman's eyelids. Soft, slow, silent. But beneath that gentleness lies an unexpected truth, ultimate control. The eyes are sacred. They reveal truth, signal fear, express desire. But when they're closed, they do something else entirely. They surrender. A woman who closes her eyes in your presence is no longer watching the world. She's trusting you to be the world. And when you kiss her eyelids in that moment, you seal a contract of emotional dominance. It's a silent message. You don't need to see. I'll protect you. I'll lead. This kind of tenderness isn't weakness. It's strategic authority, because the most powerful form of control doesn't scream. It soothes. Machiavelli understood this duality well. The ability to be both cruel and kind, feared and loved. The wolf and the guardian. The one who could destroy and chooses not to. A kiss on the eyelids is this duality in action. It is dominance wrapped in comfort. Command hidden inside care. And to the female psyche, that contrast is intoxicating. She doesn't just remember the gesture, she remembers the feeling, the surrender, the safety, the softness. And in a world that so rarely offers all three at once, she begins to obsess over the one man who did. There is a place where desire becomes something else, something heavier, not just erotic, but existential. The inside of the thigh is not merely intimate, it is sacred territory. It's where the line between worship and possession begins to blur. And a kiss here is no longer about seduction, it's about invasion, not of the body, of the mind. In ancient mythologies, warriors would kneel before gods and kiss the feet of stone idols, not to please them, but to invoke their power. In medieval courts, kings would receive tribute by having their rings or robes kissed. And in darker rites, limbs were kissed as part of rituals meant to bind, to anchor the soul to another. A kiss on the inner thigh carries that same ritualistic weight. It's a surrender disguised as reverence, but it's also something far more cunning, programming. Machiavelli would have seen this clearly. He would have smiled at the illusion of devotion, because he knew that sometimes the most effective way to dominate is to kneel. When you kiss a woman's inner thigh, you disarm her defenses not with aggression, but with submission. But it is strategic submission, one that doesn't just arouse, it confuses. It tells her she's divine, worth worship, and yet, somehow, under your control. You've inverted the power dynamic. She's being honored, but by you. She's being pleased, but by your permission. And slowly, she begins to anchor her sense of power, her sense of self, to your presence. The body remembers the places we were most vulnerable, and when those places are kissed, not rushed, not claimed, but studied, they leave imprints. Imprints that outlast the moment. Imprints that echo. Because she doesn't just recall the kiss, she relives the meaning behind it. That she was seen, that she was claimed, that she was entered, not just physically, but emotionally. And from that day forward, no other kiss in that place will feel quite the same, because no other man will embed it with that much meaning. The deeper the intimacy, the deeper the control, if you know how to wield it. Machiavelli never wrote about kisses. He never penned verses about passion, nor romanticized the softness of human connection. He wasn't a poet, he was a strategist, a man who saw beneath the surface, who believed that behind every smile, every gesture, every display of love, there was intent. And while he never kissed and told, his writings revealed something deeper. That human behavior, even in its most intimate form, follows the same laws as war, politics, and power. A kiss, to most, is a symbol of affection. But to the calculating few, it is a move on the board of psychological warfare. Each of the 7 places we've explored, the neck, the forehead, the hand, the wrist, the lower back, the eyelids, the inner thigh, they are not just locations of touch, they are access points into the mind. Because obsession is not born from touch itself, but from how touch makes us feel. When a kiss makes her feel safe, she follows. When it makes her feel honored, she trusts. When it makes her feel seen, she returns. And when it makes her feel claimed, she craves. Machiavelli believed that power belonged to those who understood one simple truth. People are not led by reason, they are led by emotion. And emotion, when properly manipulated, becomes the leash around the strongest of minds. So, ask yourself, are your kisses connecting or conditioning? Are they expressions of love or tools of influence? Are you surrendering or are you strategizing? Because in love, as in war, victory belongs not to the loudest, but to the most calculated. The one who understands that intimacy, when wielded with intention, is not weakness, it's leverage. And once you grasp that truth, you stop moving blindly through romance and start orchestrating it. You become the architect of desire, not because you kissed her, but because you kissed her where it mattered, how it mattered, when it mattered. And when that happens, she won't just remember the moment, she'll relive it over and over and over until your touch becomes a thought she can't escape, until you become more than a man, you become the addiction.